Chapter 7. At 7:15, I eat breakfast in the restaurant next to the lobby. Toast, hot milk, ham and eggs. But this free hotel breakfast doesn't come close to filling me up. The food's all gone before I realize it, and I'm still hungry. I look around and seconds on toast don't seem likely to materialize. I let out a big sigh. Well, what are you going to do? The boy named Crow says. He's sitting right across from me. You're not back home anymore, where you can stuff yourself with whatever you like, he says. I mean, you've run away from home, right? Get that through your head. You're used to getting up early and eating a huge breakfast, but those days are long gone, my friend. You'll have to scrape by on what they give you. You know what they say about how the size of your stomach can adjust to the amount of food you eat? Well, you're about to see if that's really true. Your stomach's gonna get smaller, though that'll take some time. Think you can handle it? Yeah, I can handle it, I reply. Good, Crow tells me. You're supposed to be the toughest 15-year-old on the planet, remember? I give him a nod. Well, then, how about you stop staring at your empty plate and get a move on? Following this advice, I stand up and go to the front desk to negotiate over the price of my room. I explain I'm a student at a private high school in Tokyo and have come here to write my graduation paper. Which isn't a total lie, since the high school affiliated with my school has this kind of setup. I add that I am collecting materials for the paper at the Komura Memorial Library. There's much more research than I'd imagined, so I'll have to stay at least a week in Takamatsu. But since I'm on a budget, would the discounted room rate be possible not just for 3 days, but for the whole time I'm here? I offer to pay each day in advance and promise not to cause any trouble. I stand there in front of the girl in charge, trying to do my best imitation of a nice, well-brought-up young man who's in the tight spot. No dyed hair from me, no piercings. I have no clean white Ralph Lauren polo shorts, chinos, and a pair of brand new topsiders. My teeth are gleaming, and I smell like soap and shampoo. I know how to speak politely. When I feel like it, I'm pretty good at impressing people older than me. The girl listens silently, nodding, her lips slightly twisted up. She's petite and wearing a green uniform blazer over a white blouse. She looks a little sleepy, but goes about her morning duties briskly. She's about the same age as my sister. I understand, she says, but I have to clear it with my manager. We would have an answer for you by noon. Her tone is businesslike, but I can tell that in her book I pass. She notes down my name and room number. I have no idea whether this negotiating will get me anywhere. It might blow up in my face if the manager demands to see my student ID, say, or tries to get in touch with my parents. Of course, I gave a phony home number when I registered, but seeing as how many funds are limited, I figure it's worth the risk. I check the yellow pages and call a public gym and ask about their weight machines. They have most of what I need, and it only costs $5 a day. I get directions from the station, thank them, and hang up. I go back to my room for my backpack, then hit the streets. I could just leave my stuff in the room or in the hotel safe, but I feel better carrying it all with me. It's like it's a part of me already, and I can't let go. On the bus from the terminal in front of the station to the gym, I can feel my face tighten up. I'm so nervous. Suppose somebody asks me why a kid my age is traipsing off to the gym in the middle of the day. I don't know this town and have no idea what these people are thinking, but no one gives me a second glance. I'm starting to feel like the invisible man or something. I pay the entrance fee at the desk, no questions asked. Get a key to a locker. After changing into shorts and a t-shirt in the locker room, I do some stretching exercises. As my muscles relax, so do I. I'm safe inside the container called me. With a little click, the outlines of this being, me, fit right inside and are locked neatly away, just the way I like it. I'm where I belong. I start on my circuit training, with Prince blasting away on my Walkman. I put in a good hour of training, making my usual round of 7 machines. I thought for sure a gym in such a small town would be full of dated machines, but these are the latest models, with the metallic smell of brand new steel. The first round I do with light weights, then increase the weights for the second circuit. I know exactly how much weight and how many reps work for me. Pretty soon, I start to sweat and stop every once in a while to take a swig from the bottle and bite out of a lemon I bought on the way over. Once I finish training, I take a hot shower using the soap and shampoo I brought along. I do a good job of washing my cock, not too many years out of its foreskin, and under my arms, balls, and butt. I weigh myself and flex my muscles a bit in front of a mirror. Finally, I rinse out my sweaty shorts and the t-shirt in the sink, wring them out, and stow them away in a plastic bag. I take a bus back to the station and have a steaming bowl of udon in the same diner as the day before. I take my time, gazing out the window as I eat. The station's packed with people streaming in and out, all of them dressed in their favorite clothes, bags or briefcases in hand, each one dashing off to take care of some pressing business. I stare at this ceaseless, rushing crowd and imagine a time 100 years from now. In 100 years, everybody here, me included, will have disappeared from the face of the earth and turned into ashes of dust. A weird thought, but everything in front of me starts to seem unreal, like a gust of wind could blow it all away. I spread my hands out in front of me and take a good hard look at them. What am I always so tense about? Why this desperate struggle just to survive? I shake my head, turn from the window, clear my mind of thoughts of the 100 years away. I'll just think about now. About books waiting to be read in the library, machines in the gym I haven't worked out on. Thinking about anything else isn't going to get me anywhere. That's the ticket, Crow tells me. Remember, you're supposed to be the toughest 15-year-old on the planet. Like the day before, I buy a box lunch at the station and take a train, arriving at the Komura library at 11:30, and sure enough, Oshima's there at the counter. Today he's wearing a blue rayon shirt buttoned to the neck, white jeans and white tennis shoes. He's sitting at his desk, absorbed in some massive book, with same yellow pencil, I guess, lying beside him. His bangs are all over his face. When I come in, he looks up, smiles and takes my backpack from me. You're still not going back to school, I see. I'm never going back, I confess. A library is a pretty good alternative then, he says. He turns around to check the time on the clock behind him. Then he goes back to his reading. I head off to the reading room and back to Arabian Nights. Like always, once I settle down and start flipping pages, I can't stop. The Barton edition has all the stories I remember reading as a child, but they are longer, with more episodes and plot twists, and so much more observing. It's hard to believe they are the same. They are full of obscene, violent, sexual, basically outrageous scenes. Like the genie in the bottle, they have this sort of vital, living sense of play, of freedom, that common sense can keep bottled up. I love it and can't go. Compared to those faceless hordes of people rushing through the train station, these crazy, preposterous stories of 1,000 years ago are, at least to me, much more real. How that's possible, I don't know. It's pretty weird. At 1 o'clock, I go out to the garden again, sit on the porch and eat my lunch. I'm about halfway done when Oshima comes over and says, I have a phone call. A phone call? I say, at a loss for words. For me? As long as your name's Kafka Tamura. I blush, get to my feet and take the cordless phone from him. It's the girl at the front desk at the hotel, most likely checking to see if I'm really doing research at the library. She sounds relieved to find out I hadn't lied to her. I talked with the manager, she says, and he said they've never done this before, but seeing how you're young and there are special circumstances, he'll make an exception and let you stay at the rate the YMCA arranged for you. We're not so busy right now, he said, so we can bend the rules a bit. He also said the library is supposed to be really nice, so he hopes you'll be able to take your time and do as much research as you need to. I breathe a sigh of relief and thank her. I feel a little bad about lying, but there's not much I can do about it. I've got to bend some rules myself if I want to survive. I hang up and hand the phone back to Oshima. You're the only high school student who comes here, so I figured it must be for you, he says. I told her you're here from morning till night. Your nose is stuck in a book. Which is true. Thanks, I tell him. Kafka Tamura? That's my name. Kind of strange. Well, that's my name, I insist. I assume you've read some of Kafka's stories? I nod. The Castle and the Trial, the Metamorphosis, plus that weird story about an execution device. In the penal colony, Oshima says. I love that story. Only Kafka could have written that. That's my favorite of his short stories. No kidding? I nod. Why is that? It takes me a while to gather my thoughts. I think what Kafka does is give a purely mechanical explanation of that complex machine in the story as sort of a substitute for explaining the situation we're in. What I mean is, I have to give it some more thought. What I mean is, that's his own device for explaining the kind of lives we lead. Not by talking about our situation, but by talking about the details of the machine. That makes sense, Oshima says, and lays a hand on my shoulder, the gesture natural and friendly. I imagine Franz Kafka would agree with you. He takes the cordless phone and disappears back into the building. I stay on the veranda for a while, finishing my lunch, drinking my mineral water, watching the birds in the garden. For all I know, they are the same birds from yesterday. The sky is covered with clouds, not a speck of blue in sight. Oshima most likely found my explanation of the Kafka story convincing, to some extent at least, but what I really wanted to say didn't get across. I wasn't just giving some general theory of Kafka's fiction, I was talking about something very real. Kafka's complex, mysterious execution device wasn't some metaphor or allegory, it's actually here, all around me. But I don't think anybody would get that. Not Oshima, not anybody. I go back to the reading room, where I sink down in the sofa and into the world of the Arabian Nights. Slowly, like a movie fade out, the real world evaporates. I'm alone inside the world of the story. My favorite feeling in the world. When at 5 I'm about to leave, Oshima is still behind the counter reading the same book. His shirt is still without a single wrinkle. Like always, a couple of strands of hair have fallen across the face. The hands of the electric clock on the wall behind him soundlessly tick forward. Everything around him is silent and clean. I doubt the guy ever sweats or hiccups. He looks up and hands me my backpack. He frowns a bit, like it's too heavy for him. Do you take the train here from town? I nod. If you're going to come every day, you should have this. He hands me a sheet of paper, the train schedule, it turns out, between Takamatsu station and station where I get off for the library. They usually run on time. Thanks, I say, slipping the sheet in my backpack. Kafka, I don't have any idea where you came from or what your plans are, but you can't stay in a hotel forever, right? He says, choosing his words carefully, with the fingers of his left hand as he checks the tips of his pencils. Not that it's necessary, since they're all as sharp as can be. I don't say anything. I'm not trying to butt in, believe me. I just thought I might as well ask. A boy your age in a place you've never been before. I can't imagine it's easy going. I nod again. Are you headed someplace else after here? Or are you going to be here for a while? I haven't decided yet, but I think I'll be here for a while. No other place to go, I admit. Maybe I should tell Oshima everything. I'm pretty sure he won't put me down, give me a lecture, or try to force some common sense on me. But right now, I'm trying to keep my words to a minimum. Plus, I'm not exactly used to telling people how I feel. For the time being, then, you think you can manage? Oshima asks. I give a short nod. Good luck, then, he says. Except for a few minor details, I spend the next 7 days in the same way. Except for Monday, of course, when the library is closed and I spend the day at a big public library. The alarm clock gets me up at 6:30 every morning, and I gulp down the hotel's pseudo breakfast. If the chestnut-haired girl's behind the front desk, I give her a little wave. She always nods and repays me with a smile. I think she likes me, and I kind of like her too. Could she be my sister? The thought does cross my mind. Every morning I do some easy stretching exercises in my room, and when the time rolls around I go to the gym and run through the usual circuit training. Always the same amount of weight, the same number of reps, no more, no less. I take a shower and wash every inch of me. I weigh myself to make sure my weight's staying steady. Before noon, I take the train to the Komura library. Exchange a few words with Oshima when I give him my backpack and when I pick it up. Eat lunch out on the veranda and read. When I finish the Arabian Nights, I tackle the complete works of Natsume Soseki. There's still a couple of his novels I haven't read. At 5, I exit the library, so most of the day I'm in the gym or the library. As long as I'm in one of those two, nobody seems to worry about me. Chances are pretty slim a kid skipping school would hang out in either one. I eat dinner at the diner in front of the station. I try to eat as many vegetables as I can, and occasionally buy fruit from a stand and peel it using the knife I took from the father's desk. I buy cucumbers and celery, wash them in the sink at the hotel, and eat them with mayonnaise. Sometimes I pick up a container of milk from the minimart and have a bowl of cereal. Back in my room, I jot down what I did that day in my diary, listen to Radiohead on my Walkman, read a little, then it's light out at 11. Sometimes I masturbate before going to sleep. I think about the girl at the front desk, putting any thoughts of her potentially being my sister out of my head, for the time being. I hardly watch any TV or read any newspapers. But on the evening of the 8th day, as had to happen sooner or later, this simple centripetal life is blown to bits.